It is 1 o'clock. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. A big injury blow to the Titans was reported by ESPN's Adam Schefter on Thursday as outside linebacker Harold Landry, according to Schefter, has torn his ACL. It has not yet been confirmed officially by the Tennessee Titans, as we are 10 days away from kickoff against the New York Giants. Big weekend of college football continues tomorrow after a crazy Thursday night that included Tennessee routing Ball State 59-10 to open the season. Oregon and Georgia kicking things off at 2:30 in Atlanta. Cincinnati and Arkansas play in Fayetteville at 2:30, and Florida hosting the defending Pac-12 champs Utah for a 6:30 kick. The high school football game of the week is at Father Ryan High School tonight as Pittsburgh quarterback commit Kenny Minchey leads Pope Prep against Father Ryan in the Bishop's Cup. Pre-game coverage starts at 6:45 for a 7 p.m. kickoff with Will Bowling and I on the call. Friday Night Finals will take you home until 11 p.m. after the game. Nashville Soccer Club on a hot streak, having won their last 3 matchups with a combined score of 11-1. They host Austin FC Saturday night in a game pitting the 2 top scorers in MLS against each other. Kickoff from Geodis Park is at 7:30. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone. It's Blaine and Mickey. It's a Friday on 104.5 The Zone, a football Friday, and a rare one because we've got college football to react to from a Thursday night and a ton more to preview this coming Saturday. Lucas Panzica with you, filling in for Mickey Ryan. Some well-deserved time off ahead of a long Labor Day weekend alongside the hitman, Blaine Bishop, who got back a little late last night, a 1 a.m. arrival back in Nashville for you, Blaine. You were in Neyland Stadium.
Yes, I was. The atmosphere was incredible. Just the whole entertainment around, the football game, from the music to the fireworks to naturally the tea. I mean, man, it was awesome. I really thought I could actually go play one down. I think I could have helped Ball State there. Hey, what a heck of a game. I thought, 40 points I've been calling all week. They exceeded that. So, yeah, Ball State, I'm not going to make any excuses. New quarterback, pick first play, 30 guys missing. 30 guys graduated. So they just weren't, in the same realm of the SEC. And that's why they play these games and collect that $1.5 million check. And that provides enough for the whole season, as far as their budget. It was just a tough game, really. I still saw some things. And I'm always going to look at it from the prism of UT because that's who we cover. And I saw some things that were a little concerning. Defensively, no sacks. Now, you can say, oh, Ball State was throwing the ball quick, which they were. But there were times where they weren't. So not only from the outside, but they weren't getting a lot of pressure inside. Now, it may have been here or there. But just you're supposed to dominate a MAC football team, especially in the trenches. The skill guys can be somewhat the same. Naturally, they should be a little more gifted, maybe bigger, and those things. But the trenches is something that the SEC teams always dominate those MAC schools. So I thought they didn't dominate defensively like I wanted them to. The Ball State was able to run the football just enough to keep them honest, which was kind of interesting. And they got no sacks. So, those things. I thought Haddon and Charles played well. Burrell, he struggled. He played off like he was intimidated. I told you both Ball State outside receivers are 6'3". And they're kind of built up. One's a transfer from Vanderbilt, grad transfer. And the other one there is a 6'3", Johannes Tyler. He had a good night.
Yeah, 5 catches, 62 yards.
Yeah. So, those guys, I think, Warren maybe gets a little – he didn't want to play press because he feels like he's not physical enough. But you don't have to put your hands on people when you play press. He kept playing off. So that really left him at a in a bad position defensively because – he's playing off, and they kept throwing the hitches. And then, Ball State also, another thing that stood out, converted more third downs in longer than I expected. So that was a glaring issue for me. And you're playing Ball State compared to an SEC school. So, you're going to play Pitt. They're going to have to do better in those categories. Offensively, they are who they are. The high up-tempo offense. I thought their timing was a little off with Hooker compared to last season, so I'm expecting him to get back there. That's why I always say a new year, new season is always different. So I thought I saw some things on Hooker that I hadn't seen before because I was on the ground level, which was kind of eye-opening for me. And that is when the ball is on the hash and he has to throw the hitch all the way to the other side or the screen or with a bubble or whatever you want to call it. He was inaccurate on that multiple times. He threw it high. I mean, the guy caught the ball, but you're taking precious seconds away and you're letting the defense counteract. So that was interesting. So it let me know is certain things he doesn't have a strong. And when I'm saying this, I'm saying NFL arm. I'm looking at him now as an NFL prospect. So if I was scouting him, that would have been one of the notches against him. Naturally, he's still free flowing, running the offense. When things go 1, 2, 3, he lets it fly. He's very accurate. But just certain things show you that maybe in an NFL offense, he could not be as polished as you want him. So I had never seen that before. So if I wasn't on the ground, I probably still wouldn't know that. Naturally, when Milton got in there, he's a flick of the wrist guy. He's still a little overthrew, knows to learn to touch. But he's got an NFL arm. You could say it, you don't know where it's going to go, but but he had an NFL arm. They ran the ball small. I mean, naturally dominating whoever they had at running back. It didn't really matter. They did what they wanted to do on offense, which I expected. Ball State had no pass rush. So that was, he was back there making a pancake.
All day.
I think me, you, Brett, and we could all complete some passes, and I can't even throw anymore with my left shoulder. But, so it was one of those games, and Ball State missed opportunities. They had a chance to maybe get a first down or miss an interception. Then next play they score. Tennessee scores. So when you're a team like Ball State going against Tennessee, you can't miss those opportunities and the momentum swing. So, and I thought they were flat. I think they were a little overwhelmed with what they saw there, and all the fans and the whole thing around just Tennessee football. So whether you want to call it the players, the coaches, everything. So it was just it was a beatdown. More so than I thought. I think we saw their fourth and fifth strings. To be honest, when Schuler got in there, everybody yelled. He really only ran like 5 plays, and one was a bad snap or something fumble. So it was kind of interesting just to see that. But it was just cool to just be part of that whole environment. And as I predicted, I think they're gonna still go 10-2. I want to see the rhythm of the offense though get into a rhythm. I think they're gonna have to live on their offense this year, more so than last year, I think, because they had some seniors who, even though they were new to the coaching staff, they really kind of carried them. I'm interested to see who steps up. I think you're going to get some pressure from Barron and Young, but they're going to have to really stand out and see where the younger players behind them develop that they brought in who have some upside to them and see where they are. But I think the defense, with the secondary a little bit with Burrell and then pass rush, that's going to be interesting to watch and follow in the third down efficiency, which I don't think Ball State should have been able to get some of those third downs against. Not them.
Yeah.
Not like that. They were doing it kind of routinely, and it was keeping drives alive. They never really got points out of it, but they were moving the ball. And I'm like, man, it's third day. There's no way they're getting. So those are the things I saw. Other than that, it's a blowout. What can you get out of that? To me, talent-wise, I probably would have wanted to see my younger players if I'm Tennessee and see what they can do against that kind of talent. Still should have had the edge, whether you're second or third team to me at Tennessee. So, and they let some of those guys play. I was, at third, maybe early fourth quarter, maybe. They still had the starting secondary out there, at least third quarter for sure. So I was just watching little things like that. I thought Walker Merrill showed a little bit. The guy fell right there, so that's how he got so open on one of them. But he did some hitches. Let me just see what his role will be. They were playing him outside behind. Brew McCoy looks like a bull.
He just looks ready. Yeah.
No, forget that. He had Derrick Henry arms. He was out there like it was like, Derrick Henry versus me or you. That's how I look.
Yeah.
He was really trying to, I'm a man, you a boy, I'm a dominate you. And that's kind of how he was looking out there when he was running. I was impressed with even Jalen Hyatt's blocking out there. So he was intense. He was ready. He's ready for a new year. He seems refreshed. So we'll see their top 3 guys. Tillman, they didn't throw to him. He was open a couple times on deep balls. When I say open, like 4 steps, and they didn't see him. Yeah, they didn't hit. And that was, Hooker was still out there. So he didn't look his way. But, they're going to be a force, as always, on offense in Heupel. But I think the issue is Heupel's offense, quarterbacks don't translate to the NFL. So I'm interested to see if they do some things just to change up a little bit to show what a quarterback can do in his system, tweaked with a little bit of pro-style offense. I'm interested to see that because I think that'll give us a better handle, regardless if Hooker has a great year statistically and maybe even be in the hunt for the Heisman. The NFL is still going to look at it from that perspective, and I'll be interested to see where that goes.
Well, last year this team had, honestly, 3 receivers they could actually really trust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, that was it.
Keaton did all right, too, by the way.
Keaton had a nice game. Yes. Yeah. I mean, a year ago, Cedric Tillman obviously did what he did. Velus Jones gets drafted. And it was Javonte Payton. I mean, those were their 3. They kind of started. Alex Golesh talked about it during camp. They started with 5, and they had to basically whittle it down to 3.
I think Payton made Arizona's practice squad, too, by the way.
Did he? Oh, he made the practice squad. Good.
Yeah, I think so.
Local guy, Hillsborough High School.
Yeah, I remember when they played the Titans. I was like, he was running down on special teams, too, making tackles.
Yeah, he was. It was cool to see him at joint practice at St. Thomas Sports Park. But this year, it does feel like you can come away from Ball State thinking, okay, there is unquestionably more depth at receiver. Mm-hmm. Brew McCoy looks ready. Yeah. Jalen Hyatt looks ready. Walker Merrill was out there. Mm-hmm. And like you said, Ramel Keaton had a nice game. Yeah. 4 catches, 57 yards. But with Brew McCoy, I feel like you saw everything you needed to see to kind of, at least if you're a Tennessee fan, to sort of check that box. Okay, he's probably going to be okay.
Oh, I mean, I don't know why there was a concern. It was okay if he was going to play and he's been practicing. I mean, the guy was highly recruited. The only question you could say, he committed to Texas when he came out. He went to USC, then he changed his mind, then he came out, then he came to Tennessee. So, I mean, then he missed a year. So the guy can play. I mean, he was one of the highest recruited wide receivers in the country. Mm-hmm. So as soon as he lined up and he knew the offense, he's been practicing. He was going to perform. Athletes performed. I don't think that ever was a worry, at least from my perspective. If we could do in this offense, it's a receiver-friendly offense. It's almost like impossible for you not to get the ball if you're out there.
Well, Ben McKee will join us at 2:20 now of Go Vols 247. Made the move over to 24/7 Sports. We'll talk to Ben about what Josh Heupel had to say after the game and what we can really take away from Tennessee's 59-10 season opening win against Ball State. But the environment, you enjoyed it. You're on the field. You're watching your alma mater. Did you talk to Coach New after the game, your old teammate, Ball State head coach?
I got to talk to him way before we had an alumni event. A lot of people turned out there at the Calhouns on the river at the ballroom up top. So we're on the boat too as well. So that was pretty cool. That's why I'm glad Paul let me take off kind of last minute. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to go to all those things. So I got to speak at that event and seeing a lot of old friends and players show up just, because they understand when we play teams like that, you're really trying to prove your worth to the NFL that you can play with these guys on this level. And we kind of live for those games. I don't know if you live to get blown out like that, but you wanted to put up a great performance, one of your best of the season against some of the top prospects for the National Football League.
Well, one of the Titans' top prospects, I guess he's not a prospect anymore,
nice.
Out for the season. And we haven't talked to you about it since that happened, Blaine. That came down in hour 2 of the show yesterday. I guess you were on your way to Knoxville when that happened. So how do you find that out, that Harold Landry, reportedly, team has not come out and confirmed it yet, but Adam Schefter.
Well, Adam Schefter, yeah.
And we had transactions, after that news broke, but it was just about Gordon. It was about the guys they waived from the practice squad, Reggie Robertson, David Wells, gone. How do you find out that Harold Landry tore his ACL as you're on your way to Knoxville?
2 people text me. One, my wife. And so I'm interested she was paying attention to sports because she never pays attention to sports. And number 2 was Mickey text me. And I go, oh, crap. And I'm like, oh, man. So we can talk about it the next segment. But, man, that is a blow. That's a big one there, man. I think that's even bigger. See, and people are going to think I'm crazy because of the style. This is bigger than the Kings injury last year. And it's because of how this team is built. How this team is built by the defense carrying the offense. Even though King was the exceptional runner, they could still get by with all the runners they had, as I said then at that time, that they would do fine with Foreman or whoever else was going to be part of it because they were built on running the offense. Now, was it going to be a lot more home run hits? No, without King. But they could still function their offense. This defense is going to be able to function, but Bud Dupree now is going to have to become Harold Landry this year, what Harold Landry was last year, and it's up, to debate if he can actually do that until we see it. So I think this is a huge blow. And then the other thing is his versatility. He was dropping in coverage as well, and then could rush. So they're not going to be able to replace him because pass rush was key in winning the AFC South. Now it may not cost them. It could cost them overall maybe a game, but that one game could cost them the AFC South. And that's where I'm interested because they built this team to pass rush, and Matty Ice is a statue, and he can now, maybe have another split second, and that can provide him a throw that maybe couldn't have been completed before.
We'll talk to Buck Rising about it. He just got off the radio, but we'll bring him on for 20 more minutes. Buck Rising of the Buck Rising Show joins us next. It's Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone.
FanDuel wants you to be ready for game day when college football kicks off again this week. Right now, new customers can get $150 in free bets. That's guaranteed for this week one. You just have to place a $5 bet. You can get $150 in free bets. That's if you win or lose. Maybe you got a futures bet like Alabama to win the national championship. That's the one that I would make. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, now's the perfect time to give it a shot. The app is so easy to use. They're always hooking you up with great odds, and when you win, you'll get paid fast. I also like the Vols over on wins. Taking that for sure. See for yourself why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Download the FanDuel app today. Sign up with the promo code Mickey. Place a $5 bet. Get $150 back, $150 back in free bets guaranteed.
Welcome back. It's Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone. Lucas Panzica filling in for Mickey Ryan as we head into a long Labor Day weekend. The Hitman is back in town after heading to Knoxville last night to check out his Ball State Cardinals against Tennessee. And Buck Rising just got off the air 20 minutes ago, and he's right back on the air talking Harold Landry out for the season, reportedly with an ACL. Buck, did you miss me?
Not nearly enough. The absence makes the heart grow fonder. You and I need some time apart.
You're right. We don't get enough of that. We were talking on the last segment. Obviously, this is not officially confirmed by the team yet. Coach Mack told us earlier today, keep your powder dry. But at what point do they have to put something out there? Is there any sort of deadline here where if Harold Landry has indeed torn his ACL and is out for the season, they need to put him on IR by this date?
No, and I'm glad you asked that question because there's not any kind of deadline for that right now. Obviously, there needs to be a corresponding transaction when they submit it to the league. So maybe that's the process that they're still working through, or it sounds like they've already had the medical evaluations based on my understanding. So no, there is no deadline outside of Saturday, I guess, before the Sunday kickoff against the Giants, that they would have to make a decision on this.
Just based on who's active and who's not, basically.
Yeah, really.
So you guys were out there. I know there was a few minutes of open portion at practice on Thursday. Did you see Harold out there at any point? Were you guys out there after you think this might have happened? Like, did anybody note he wasn't there? I wonder when the team figured this out, because you were talking earlier about Mike Vrabel and his mood during the press conference. But I was just surprised not to see anything about Harold Landry not being present at practice, unless you guys were there for the first portion before it happened.
No, he practiced when we were out there, and then it's regular season rules. So during training camp for the audience, they let media stay out there the whole time, and then once they move into the regular season, they kick us off the field after about the first 15 or 20 minutes. We no longer get to watch the full practice. We just get to see Stretch an individual basically take attendance before we do open locker room and Vrabel and other player press conferences. So if it happened while on Wednesday as opposed to Thursday, they did not have practice Thursday. They had meetings and walkthroughs. I'm sure they canceled practice Thursday because of the situation that occurred Wednesday. If it happened, it was after we had already been escorted off the field.
Buck Rising with us on 104.5 The Zone.
Well, Buck, what do you think the impact of Landry's loss will be to the team, and how much that affect their overall record, and even in winning the AFC South?
Yeah, I mean, it's the one thing that I think was going to be their best opportunity to be special. If there was any component of them that was going to be special this year, it was going to be that pass rush, returning the front four with a little additional depth to kind of give them respite. But that's the thing about Harold. He doesn't take breaks. Even when they have more depth, they don't pull him off the field under precious few circumstances. And he has not missed a start in the last 3 seasons since he became a full-time starting player. I think beyond that, what it affects is the thing that kept them sustainable through all the different injuries last year is that they consistently displayed the ability to get pressure with 4. They did not need to bring an extra guy on third down to be able to get home. It was not as bad, obviously, as the 2020 defense that was, borderline futile when it came to getting to the quarterback. They are going to now have to find ways to manufacture more pressure than they did outside of just stunts and games and zone exchange stuff where you bring a 4th guy, but maybe it's David Long, or maybe the 4th guy is Elijah Molden, and you drop Harold into coverage, because Harold can do that. Harold can do that well. And I know Ramon with us earlier brought up the idea of Harold as basically the Titans' T.J. Watt. He gives them a lot of different versatility outside of just being a dominant edge rusher.
I know you love stuff like this, Buck, so that's what I'm going to ask you. Do you think the Titans are a little bit cursed on the ACL guys, whether you're signing them or having them to your own team, just the timing of all those things, and nothing never really comes together at the right moment? Lawan.
Yeah, it does seem like, it does seem like there's just these perpetual gut punches year after year with meaningful personnel. There's not, especially, I don't know if it was non-contact. I think Schefter did mention that it was a non-contact injury, but obviously Vrabel did not speak to that, and Robinson did not speak to that on Wednesday. So there's nothing really to tie them together other than, it's terrible luck for a team that's trying to take advantage of a window while they have these kind of players. And it seems that they're not ever really going to see their full potential as they haven't in the last 3 years with these kind of significant injuries.
Well, I'm going to stay with that. Outside of Tannehill, who else could they not afford to lose to something like that? Like Lawan, Big Jeff, KB, King. I mean, man, who do you think that would be?
I think it goes to hell if anything happens to Byard. I think it goes to hell fast if anything happens to Byard because the safeties run that defense. So now you're not just talking about the ability physically and mentally of the player, but you're talking about all the different organizational pieces and parts that he is responsible for orchestrating before the snap actually goes. So I mean, I think if you had to narrow it down to two specifically, Tannehill and Byard are the things that I think would damn this team the most.
No doubt about it. We're on with Buck Rising from the Buck Rising Show. I guess one more for me. I know they signed Josh Gordon to the practice squad while I was out yesterday, and I mean, I'm not he was great in the beginning of his career, but I think there's not a lot of risk here with the practice squad, but I'm interested to see if he can even contribute. I would say that was a no-go for me, but what are your thoughts on that signing?
I mean, based on the options, I get it, I guess, but insignificant in the longer term of things. Now, I think if you wanted to look at it in a way that Titans fans are curious about, I do think it's important that they brought him in earlier as opposed to later to get him kind of up to speed. Should they need an additional roster transaction in the wide receiver room the way that they've already done with Racey McMath and Cody Hollister? For both the Harold injury situation and bringing Josh Gordon in at the time that he was available, both of those things do benefit from having additional time to prepare.
Who's out there in free agency that you would like to see the Titans sign? Is anybody out there you like?
As a edge?
No, as a wide receiver.
As a wide receiver, nothing that's really clearly and obviously better than what they have. I have to assume that Will Fuller is either still dealing with something or is asking for entirely too much money for him to still be unemployed beyond roster cuts. So whatever's happening there, that Titans fans just see the name, understand the skill set when he's healthy, and kind of gravitate towards. I don't think there's anything that's a clear and obvious upgrade over what they have, given that whomever you would be bringing in externally, you would have to get up to speed as well in a way that, they cut 29 guys and 17 of them ended up back on the practice squad. They like the institutional knowledge that gives them should they need to adapt on the fly rather than, they pull somebody off the street on a Thursday and then all of a sudden you've got two different starting running backs against the Patriots.
So there might have been kind of a collective eye roll when they announced Gordon to the practice squad, right? But in reality, it's relatively no risk. I just don't know what the reward might be. But I guess that's worth figuring out.
Well, I mean, the Chiefs, it seems, felt similarly. They've had him around for a little while now. But, again, it's worth noting that the Chiefs blew up their wide receiver core this offseason and did not feel it necessary to keep Josh Gordon. So I do think that is telling as far as roster construction around the league is concerned.
So when looking at who kind of has to rise to the occasion for the Titans on the edge, Bud Dupree obviously is going to garner much more attention now than he would have before. Your mind goes straight to Rashad Weaver. But between those two guys, who do you figure has more pressure on them going into 2022? Weaver playing his first actual NFL season in his second year, or Bud Dupree, who, signs that big contract and is fully healthy for the first time in 2022 with the Titans?
Oh, for sure, Dupree because of the money. I mean, Rashad Weaver I know fans like and they're excited for him, and that does put an inherent degree of pressure on him. But, you can't. Rashad Weaver's playing for pennies compared to what Bud's making, and that is going to be the expectation for him to kind of pick up the slack the way that Harold did without Bud. Now, they're not the same player, and while they do play a similar position, it's not necessarily apples to apples that way. But Bud, he has continually expressed confidence in his physical ability right now. Taylor Lewan has talked regularly at practice about how difficult Bud has been to deal with. So that is a promising sign. even if you are losing, your top edge guy, it's good to know that your highly paid one, or I guess they're both highly paid now, but it's good to know that your key free agent acquisition from last season is ready to step up and looks to be capable of doing so in a meaningful way.
I mean, I know we don't really know what they have in Rashad Weaver because we just haven't seen it on the field in a regular season game at any point. But what do you think the Titans believe they have in Rashad Weaver? Just based on how they talk about him, the way that they've used him in the preseason, team drills at training camp. Like, if you have to make your best guess as far as what the team thinks they have in this second-year player out of Pitt, what would you say?
Oh, I think competent depth. Now he's going to be able to play multiple positions because it's not just Danico Autry is as much. That's why they call them edge, right? It's no longer distinguished between defensive end and outside linebacker. It's just who you got out on the edge. So Weaver's going to be able to give them snaps outside. I think in certain packages he can give them looks inside. His abilities in coverage, the way that Harold did, I would say, yeah, that's probably not something he's going to be doing a whole lot of because it's not going to put him in a position of strength. But I think that they are happy with who he is as a player and what he can give them. It's just they might find out sooner than they might have initially planned to.
How surprised will you be if they don't go and add a body at edge? If they stick with Aneni, who's obviously on the practice squad right now, Ola Daney has a big impact on special teams. He's made some noise at that position early last season. Just how surprised will you be if they just don't add anybody to that room and stick with what they've got?
I wouldn't be surprised, but I would say if I was a Titans fan, I would be disappointed because that tends to be the thing that they typically do. John Robinson is not Les Snead. He's not out here mortgaging the future to bring in proven veteran commodities the way that they, that has often been cited with the Rams and somebody like Von Miller or this year Bobby Wagner and other veterans who are not cost effective but can give you immediate impact and give you the best chance to win. So would it surprise me if they didn't do anything? No, but I think it would be, I wouldn't necessarily approve of that kind of a decision.
Buck Rising of the Buck Rising Show with us on Blaine and Mickey.
No doubt. Did you have any, thoughts on the 53-man roster that, at least as of today, that you really, made you go, that was interesting?
Well, I'm not anything that I didn't need, further affirmation for, but I think certainly the idea that they trust Cody Hollister significantly more than they trust Des Fitzpatrick is something that has to be disappointing, again, if you're a Titans fan, because it's not necessarily about who the more physically talented player is. It's about, okay, if we put you out there, if we are in a certain circumstance where we have to put you out there, one, can you play teams and can you play them well? And two, can you put us in a position to not hurt ourselves, to not shoot ourselves in the foot? We have quantifiable evidence that Des Fitzpatrick was not helpful when he was out on the field in terms of route running and miscommunication and causing interceptions because he wasn't on the same page as Tannehill. Hollister, and we know that he has struggled with his run blocking technique and fundamental breakdowns. John Robinson talked, Wednesday about consistency, and there just being so much variance with Des on a day-in, day-out basis that they don't want to work with a variable that way. They want, even if Hollister is less than, he's a known commodity, you know what he can do, you know what he can't do, and then you can work around playing to his strengths should you need to play him meaningful snaps.
Yeah, I called on, what day were we out at the golf course?
Monday
that Trey Avery would make the team. Lucas pulled it for me.
He did. He called his shot.
Actually, I thought that was a possibility. I didn't know if he could really make it. It was between him and Chris Jackson. They went with him over Chris Jackson, who, he got injured. It wasn't like he played great, so they thought he could sneak through. But were you surprised about that, or were you not? You've been out there covering him.
No, I think we did an on-air roster projection, and I had Trey Avery on my 53 over Chris, and really, that's not necessarily a mark against Chris because Chris has played
outside and inside. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. He's played a lot of football for them and has been a significant addition, certainly as far as seventh-round picks go. But I thought the knee injury kind of put him in a bad position. I thought that Trey Avery has shown great effort and willingness to do basically everything that they ask him to do. Certainly he's not in a position to do anything but. But it wasn't like a shock to me.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it just comes down to personal preference, and it's clear that they like what Trey Avery can bring them, the potential of it at least, going back again to known commodities like Chris Jackson.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That was my crush. Mickey has crush Chestnut. We had him on. You weren't surprised you didn't mention his name. I was a little surprised. I thought small chance, but practice squad for sure. So you weren't surprised that he made the roster. 5 running backs, Buck?
No,
Come on.
He's no, it's such a Titans thing to do.
How many? I want to know how many other teams. How many of the other 31 teams in the NFL have 5 running backs on a? There cannot be one. There can't be. I haven't looked.
You could count on one hand probably the number of teams that carry a fullback on the active roster the way that this one does so regularly. I mean, listen, Chestnut is. I think you could foretell that as soon as he got the preseason start over Hassan Haskins in Baltimore. Like they clearly love him. They clearly love the effort and the energy, and it's as much about that for those fringe roster guys as it is about the physical talent. Now, the position that he plays does bother me, the fact that occupies an active roster spot. But, like, if you ask me if he's going to be there on week 1, I would probably say no.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, but then they would have to bring him back on practice squad. Okay, let's stick with the running backs. We're on with Buck Risey from the Buck Risey Show. The Kings restructure, kind of lay it out for all us minions about how that restructure works and what that means to you, maybe even next year or beyond for Henry.
So I think the common misconception, and I made a joke to this effect on Twitter, is that they cut Brett Kern for $2 million and gave it to Derek.
They just had it lying around.
Come on, man.
Which was not what happened, obviously. But they did move $2 million from his deal and the money that he is set to make in 2023 to this year. It gives him an immediate raise in ways that clearly his representation was kind of looking for when we saw that. The rumor floated from, I believe, Jeremy Fowler at some point.
It was Jeremy Fowler. Yeah, we were talking about it yesterday on Blaine and Mickey.
Yeah, potential extensions for Derek, and it does not add guaranteed money, which means that they still have the flexibility to cut the cord if they feel that it's necessary. Derek, they obviously want to do right by Derek. They have just consistently displayed a willingness to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that this move does leave them open to the conversations of an extension, if they're clearly willing to, just do things that will just generally keep him happy. Everybody, I think he talked about it earlier this summer, maybe around mandatory minicamp. Who doesn't want a raise at their job? And that's exactly what he got. So I think to their credit, they found a way to make it work. But it's still very much a wait and see, I think, for everybody in 2022. Beyond that, it certainly does leave them open to the discussion of keeping Derrick Henry on their roster once he's in his 30s, which is pretty, again, surprising given the position that he plays and how hard that is to keep a grasp on the speed that Derek has at that size. He's not getting any weaker necessarily, but how long he can be so much faster at that size than defensive backs. And the thing that makes Derek so special, that is very much a wait-and-see proposition, I think, for everybody this year.
What's more likely to you? September 11th, against the New York Giants, the active roster has 5 running backs, including the fullback Troy Carter, or 7 defensive linemen, which is currently the case.
7 defensive linemen, because they're not, again, it comes back to what's the difference between an outside linebacker and a defensive end? It's just those guys aren't all D linemen necessarily to them, so it's not as cut and dry as you laid it out. So I would be more surprised to see the 5 running backs.
Lastly, before we let you go, can 2 teams from the AFC South make the playoffs?
Hell no, Blaine.
Oh. Man, I'm getting nervous now. Landry's out. I don't know if the Titans. I was feeling good. I'm like, even though national people was all going Colts, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. But now I'm getting a little nervous purpose. That I don't know. And they play them early in the season. That's another, at least early to me. I mean, man, they used to backload those games and put them, more towards the ends because they know it's going to impact the division. So now they're right up at the the top of this thing. In the first 8 games, they play them twice.
Yeah, week 4 is in Indy.
Yeah,
And it's crazy that I mean, I think Indy opens with 2 straight AFC South opponents, so they've really front loaded those divisional games
Yeah, this year.
in ways that are meaningful. And yeah, that Colts Titans series is over before even Halloween weekend. I think it's the week before Halloween this year that they have that wrapped up. I mean, I went with the Blaine Bishop method after Harold went down. I picked the better quarterback, and the better quarterback on face value is Matt Ryan. So I mean, you look at that and you just kind of say, okay, if there's not going to be anything that definitively makes them special, then they're going to need to go above and beyond again this year as they did last year, which, to their credit, they are certainly capable of.
Dang.
All right, Buck, I know you don't necessarily get a completely long weekend because you've got press conference stuff going on Monday. What are the odds that Mike Vrabel acknowledges the Harold Landry injury on Monday?
I imagine we will ask, and I imagine we will be met with a glare and an unavailable.
Okay.
No, 100%. I'm going 100%. He will acknowledge
we'll see,
that it
Blaine.
is.
That he's done for the year?
Yeah, I mean, because he's done. There's no need to hide the injury.
It would just drag it out, wouldn't
Right.
it?
I mean,
We just
why
keep
not?
asking.
I mean,
There's
but
zero
that
reason- no,
is
Blaine, I
not
bet
how
you
he
there's a
operates,
0%
though.
chance.
I know that's not how he operates, but matter of fact, I'm gonna just add that's my shot.
Oh, that's your shot?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
there. I'm
We're
gonna
call-
go all in, chips all in. Yeah, Buck's laughing at me. He says, "There's no way that's happening."
There needs to be some sort of wager that will establish off
No,
the air.
I'm saying I bet he will acknowledge it, Blaine, but he will never tell us that it was an ACL. Never, ever.
Oh,
ever.
okay. So
Yeah, I guess that's a different conversation.
okay. We shall see.
All right, Buck, enjoy the weekend. I mean, starts up September 11th, and then we've got a few weeks before the bye week. It's an early bye, but first long weekend for quite a while before the start of the Titans season. So enjoy it, and I will see you soon.
Bang.
All right, boys. Have a great weekend.
Take care, bro.
Buck Rising, the Buck Rising Show on 104.5 The Zone. So a situation like this has happened before in modern Titans history. You were on the team, Blaine. I want to ask you about it coming up next. It's Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone.
What you talking about? What you talking about? A star player getting hurt? Oh, good lord.
I want to ask you about Carlos Hall.
I wasn't on the team with them when that happened. Yeah, I was not. What? Yeah, I don't think I was.
Let's talk to all the men and women out there who are dealing with hair loss. And, for guys, it's like you all got that friend who just wears a hat all the time, right? Or you got the friend who just said, screw it, and just buzzed his hair, then grew a beard or something. Just masking the problem. Ladies, maybe you're doing a little something similar. Maybe you're not buzzing your head, but you're trying to figure out clever and interesting ways to hide the fact that maybe you're losing some hair. That's where PAI comes in. They can help you put a stop to all those charades and just get your hair back and keep the hair that you've lost. Why not do that? Why not just go straight to the source? PAI, they're the best in the business. Got the best team in the business. They got the best technology in the business. They're right down the road in Brentwood. It's where people have been coming for 2+ decades to take care of hair loss. One thing. That's all they do. So stop messing around and stop trying to hide the problem. Fix the problem. Go to WeGrowHair.com today. It's their website. You can see all the cool stuff that they can do for you. Then make an appointment. Tell them I sent you 615-376-6010. The only thing you will regret is that you didn't call PAI sooner. What if you could just take your car, drive around a parking lot, and ram it into people? That's what happens at Bristol. They just ram into people, and you can watch it. I mean, you can watch it on TV. Or how about this? You can actually put your crew in a car and go see it. You can go see a whole weekend of Bristol. It's the best thing, man. It is just the best. It's the best track in NASCAR. It's among the best sporting events that gets done every year. And you got a whole weekend of this stuff all coming up. Well, September starts tomorrow. The truck race on the 15th on Thursday. Then on the 16th, you got the Food City 300 Xfinity race. And then Saturday the 17th. Man, think about it. Weather's going to start to be nice. You'll be up there in the mountains. Bass Pro Shops night race. The race of the year at the Coliseum, which is the place. I mean, if you like action, this is all the action you ever going to get on a Friday or a Saturday night, rather. They're going to be throwing helmets and trading paint. There's zero reason for you not to be there. BristolMotorspeedway.com. Go there now. Get your tickets and just go every year after that. You know why? You don't ever need to miss it. Because it's Bristol, baby.
So the Tennessee Titans are without outside linebacker Harold Landry reportedly for the 2022 season. Obviously a big money edge rusher, 12.5 sacks to lead the team in 2021. It's not the first time this has happened since the Titans moved to Nashville. It's Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone. Lucas Panzica alongside the hitman Blaine Bishop. And Blaine, in 2002, I know you were dealing with your own injuries, but Javon Kearse goes down with the foot injury early season. Somebody brought this up to us earlier today. And
what you just told me is you didn't care nothing about my injury.
Hold on. What was your injury in 2000?
I had a sprained Liz Franks injury in my foot.
Okay.
I only played 4 games. The first time I ever was, I think, on IR ever. My last year, and then that's why it became my last year.
So you and Javon Kearse both played just 4 games in that 2002 season. And Carlos Hall, a 7th-round rookie, comes in and picks up 8 sacks that season.
Yeah, we thought he was going to be the next Javon Kearse.
Yeah.
Now, he was nowhere near the athlete. And let's get that cleared out the way.
Sure.
But he put up the numbers.
And the Titans go 11-5, and they win the AFC South.
They did. So that was, that's when you thought, man, is this the beginning or end of Javon Kearse? Because he relied on his athleticism and his speed as a rusher. Like, he didn't have a lot of moves. He could literally just run around people and do just the cross chop, So, yeah, after that, he had to really start coming up with pass rush moves and how to game plan. And I don't know if he ever really embraced it because he was just so much further as an athlete that anybody could ever touch. So that was starting to will him back a little bit closer to the field, a little bit, that first one. And then I think at Philly, he had the ACL or maybe the Achilles, and then that really got him back. He still was a productive player, but he wasn't that elite level athlete that is just hard to. People forget he played safety in high school. See, so he still was a safety in speed.
Javon did.
So, yeah, so that was, he was kind of special. Carlos, after that, nobody thought he was going to, they thought he was going to be the next, big thing and 10-sack guy, and it never happened. Never came to fruition. That's why you got to say every year's a new year, and you can't go on your reputation from the previous year. You just cannot do it in the National Football League. They're continually evolve and change and game plan against you and what you do. So you better come back as a better version of what you were the year before. And continue to evolve your game.
Yeah, and Carlos Hall played 3 more seasons of NFL football after that. Career ended after 2005 in Kansas City. But the point is, I don't see the Titans bringing in a guy to get near double-digit sacks in free agency.
Is anybody out there that's worthy of that?
I've seen names floated around. I've seen Cleveland Farrell floated out there, the former 2nd-round pick of the Las Vegas Raiders that they recently cut. I've seen names.
Well, that could be a flyer because he went too high in the draft. And if he's still out there, you still not giving up a lot, are you? Or does he still on his rookie contract?
Oh, I'd have to look up what the money looks like.
I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on him. I would want to go a little young. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they just stuck with the guys they have and elevate Anene. Is that how you say it? Anene?
Anene? David Anene. Right.
Anene.
I mean, still on the practice squad, David Anene. But the point is, Harold Landry probably needs to be Carlos Hall. Harold Landry in 2022 needs to be as Carlos Hall was to the Titans in 2002, in my mind.
Hopefully they find somebody like that. It wouldn't be shocking. I just don't think, man.
Or Rashad Weaver. Did I say Landry? I meant Rashad Weaver.
Mm-hmm. Weaver could be maybe a 6-8 sack guy if he's out there consistently. Continues to grow in his game. He didn't play any last year after he had a broken leg or something. So, so that, man, this is I'm really heartfelt with this injury. I mean, like, you just can't duplicate 12 sacks, man.
12 and a half.
It's not guys just sitting around right now because they are teams.
I mean, the onus is definitely on Dupree because of what Buck said with the money that comes with that contract. But it's such an interesting way to look at it with Rashad Weaver as a guy that they got in the 4th round of the 2021 draft that you're excited about as potentially being, a day 3 steal, flashed in the preseason a year ago, then broken leg out for the year. He has all the size, the athleticism. The team clearly likes him, but you still have absolutely no idea what he brings to this defense in terms of production because you haven't seen it in anything other than preseason and training camp. So are you going to keep it in the building or they could add a body? I just don't see them replicating that production from the outside looking in, and it's got to be somebody to step up. And I feel like it's Rashad Weaver. Come on down.
Right. Well, here's how we used to look at things when we had injuries to really good players like that. We have to do it collectively. So no one player is going to replace Landry's production. So if you get three guys who probably, let's say, get 4 sacks apiece and kind of spread it around, you just have to do it as a unit instead of one individual. I'm not going to put all the onus on Dupree or Landry or Weaver. And Dupree has to just play better than last year as far as numbers. He's got to get in the 8 to 10 sack range, even regardless if Landry was out or not.
Yeah.
So he just has to be that guy based off his money. But I think you got to do it collectively. And so that's what I'm saying. I don't know if you would think about even having a veteran that may out there who's a polished pass rusher. He could put up 3 sacks over a season, get another guy put up, 4 or 5 sacks. And then one thing about Weaver, we haven't seen him drop. Like the versatility in Landry, he dropped a lot more than people imagine. I mean, I don't know the percentage, but he did it more than I would expect. And so that kind of then freed up Dupree or whoever else was over there at the time. So, yeah, this hurts in a little more ways than people really know. This was a tough one. So they got to do it as a group. And I'm cool with that, but I want to know who the group is. And right now, all we know is the guys that are on the Titans and even on the practice squad. So we'll see if that's the route they go or they go in a different direction. Nobody's going to do a lot of trading either. They're not giving up pass rushers. That's probably the second best position outside of quarterback. Yeah, pass rusher. How do you get to the quarterback? The pass rusher. Yeah, right. Who blocks the pass rusher? The quarterback. Offensive tackle. So see, that shows you the value of the positions. Who's stopping the passes? Who's catching the passes? So yeah, that nobody's going to trade a pass rusher. If they are, then there's something wrong.
A lot of sacks to replace in 2022. The Vols have some sacks to create because they didn't get any on Thursday night against Ball State. We'll talk about what that might look like against Pittsburgh and what we saw last night against Blaine's Chirp Chirp Ball State Cardinals. Hour 2 of Blaine and Mickey coming up next on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, Mickey Ryan here to talk about Renters Warehouse. Renters Warehouse are in heavy demand right now in Nashville for 3 reasons. 1, the rental market is booming. People rent in uncertain real estate times, and homes are getting leased as fast as they are selling. 2, with Renters Warehouse, professional landlords, you can rent your house worry-free, no paperwork, rent collections, or 3 a.m. maintenance calls. And 3, with regulations changing so quickly, more people are learning that using an experienced property manager is far less stressful than trying to do everything yourself. Now's not the time to DIY or mess with inexperienced property managers. For a low, flat monthly fee, Renters Warehouse will take the grunt work off your plate with no upfront fees and no binding contracts. Plus, they can help you turn your part-time rental into a full-time cash flow machine. And if you're a real estate agent, they're offering cash payments for referrals. Go to renterswarehouse.com to book your free home rental price analysis today or call 615-398-9550. That's 615-398-9550. Renters Warehouse, Nashville. You can't buy happiness, but you can rent it.
Hour number 2, it's Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone, inching you closer to your Labor Day weekend. Lucas Panzica in for the great Mickey Ryan alongside the hitman Blaine Bishop. Brett Batchelor making things happen for us. Been a lot of talk about how the Tennessee Titans are going to replicate the production of Harold Landry, reportedly out with a torn ACL. Adam Schefter had that. We're coming up on 24 hours ago. In about 7 minutes, it'll be 24 hours since that Schefter report. Well, the Tennessee Vols were unable to register any sacks, Blaine Bishop, against your Ball State Cardinals on Thursday. You're out there on the sideline. And, attribute it to whatever you want. Coach Mack told us earlier today he could tell Tennessee very vanilla that they almost had no game plan for Ball State. It was simply overwhelm them. You've got Pitt on the road in week 2. That's where things really get started for this team. And Ball State getting that ball out crazy quick. Snap of a finger, that ball was out. And I don't know if you want to attribute that first play of the game. That's basically a sack with Aaron Beasley blowing up the backfield and causing a Tamarion McDonald interception. So with all that said, there is for me, a cautious concern about the pass rush for Tennessee because I didn't notice Byron Young at all yesterday. I didn't really notice Tyler Barron. They didn't pop out whatsoever. I noticed Joshua Josephs, the freshman, because he's big and he's new and he, deflected a pass in the backfield on a screen. But to me, 2 tackles for loss is the more concerning stat from last night than 0 sacks.
Yeah, well, it's hard to say, but you just felt like Tennessee should have dominated a little bit more. And it's hard for me to say that when they 59-10. You're not watching the game. The score tells you everything, but it's an SEC team, and they didn't dominate like that in the line of scrimmage. So no sacks, not a lot of pressure up in the inside. So that was a little discouraging. One other observation on offense, though, not really any chunk plays. No chunk plays. Now, people say, they were playing off and playing deep. I'm like, they were just playing their coverages. That was their scheme. So that was a little interesting. I think they had some chunk plays. I think they missed them. Tillman was open twice. I'm on the sideline. He ran a post route both different times. He was open. They just didn't look his way or got off of him early.
His longest catch, 18 yards.
Yeah.
And then there's the 53-yard strike from Milton to Holiday in the second half. 32-yard catch for Ramel Keaton. That was his long on the day.
Okay, well, you can consider that a chunk play. Anything over 25 yards. But I'm talking about, 60 for time. I mean, you're playing Ball State, so I'm thinking that's going to happen a couple times. It was happening in the SEC. So, but, hey, they probably had 10 plays they ran throughout the entire game, and they just kept running those plays. And I don't think they schemed anything preparing for Ball State. They were preparing probably for Pitt. So Pitt had a big win against West Virginia, old school rivalry. So that was interesting.
Did you get to watch any of that game?
Come on, man. I was at Ball State, and I got home at 1 o'clock. No.
That game was unbelievable.
I saw the highlights on da-da-da, da-da-da.
That game was unbelievable.
Yeah. I saw the guy, they called it a no catch at the end. That's why.
It was a good call.
Yeah, it was.
Blaine, you would have loved the pick 6 that won Pittsburgh that game. I mean, JT Daniels with a nice ball. I can't remember I don't know the receiver's name.
JT
Number
Daniels.
0. What's that?
He plays for West Virginia.
Yeah. So you've got an old Big East rivalry in Pitt against West Virginia. So an old Big East rivalry between a Big 12 team and a Big 10 team with 2 USC quarterbacks going head-to-head.
That's hilarious.
For one team that's going to be from the Pac-12 to the Big 10 in the future. So that's the state of college football nowadays.
Oh, crazy.
Ball goes right in his hands, deflects off his hands, goes straight up in the air, tip drill, picked off by the DB behind him, runs it back 60 yards for a pick 6. At the end of the game, 38-31 the final score.
Wow. Man, that's what's up, man. Hey, the luck of the draw, man. Hey, man, he made the play, so cool. So that was a fantabulous game. How was the crowd?
Unbelievable. That
like
rivalry has not been played in 11 years, and it showed. Largest crowd in Pittsburgh sports history was last night at the newly named Acrisure Stadium, what we thought was Heinz Field. What used to be Heinz Field is now Acrisure Stadium.
Right.
Over 70,000 people for that game. That's the largest crowd in Pittsburgh sports history. But speaking of the state of college football today, Brett.
Breaking sports news on 104.5 The Zone.
Pete Thamel of ESPN reporting that the College Football Playoff Board of Managers has decided officially on a 12-team college football playoff during today's meeting. And that the 12-team model is expected to start in 2026 after the conclusion of the current contract. He says there is still a chance it could go earlier, but those details are complicated. and would take some time to work out. But according to Pete Thamel, college football playoff expansion is official.
Look how you youngsters are keeping secrets there and all that, catching me off guard with that, man. I'm like, what's the breaking news? Pete Thamel, wow, man. 12-team playoff. Okay, I like it. 2026, I was hoping maybe 2024. I'm sure they probably shooting for that time, too.
Might still be.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see what all the complicated things, and there's a lot of tentacles to all of that, but what they are and what, kind of give us a hint of what some of them could be and maybe not be. But, yeah, that's exciting. More money, more football for us in the playoffs keeps us on edge, and, a little more level playing field. I'm interested to see if they're also – will be the restructuring of all the conferences at that point in time, and then if they branch off, and if it's just, the two big boys or three power conferences, where are we at with the state of all of that, before the playoffs kick in, the expansion of playoffs. So, it keeps you excited, man. College football, man, it's right there with the NFL, and in some minds, more so because of all the passion that goes with college football. So as far as making some money, so this is going to be one to follow because wherever the money goes, that's what we need to be following. That's what's going to happen. So I'm watching Big Ten, SEC, ACC, whatever other conferences are out there, or are they going to branch off and do their own deal? Because all this NIL also is going to be a part of all of this equation, and it's going to be out of control. And then at some point, maybe the government gets involved. Oh, that's a whole nother tentacle. Oh, well, that'll take another couple more years.
Yeah, that's going to be a while.
So, or do they also follow the rules? Do the as far as this, what Nick Saban was complaining about, really about A&M, is that they were giving it to recruits. They're not supposed to be doing that right now. Naturally, they are, coming in. So do they change some of the rules? And that's why, or is that what's going to make them force and branch off and do their own deal? And then the NCAA then is only part of, let's say, the smaller, Division I programs in the top 5 go where they want to go, or the top 3 conferences, or whatever it may end up being. And then they follow the NCAA model, and those big 3, 5, whatever it is, run their own model. I think that's where it's going.
Brett Batchelor, what do you have? You told me you have an update from Ross Dellinger on the timeline of potential playoff expansion.
Ross Dellinger from Sports Illustrated is also reporting that it could be 24, 25, or 2026, and it's up to the state of the commissioners of the conferences to decide when they want to implement the new rule.
All right, so Pete Thamel also saying those details are complicated, would take some time to work out. You want to react to that? 615-737-1045. Give us a call. Tell us how you feel about a 12-team college football playoff that will be implemented as early, or as late as, I should say, 2026.
Oh, we don't have anybody coming on?
Ben McKee will join us, talk Vols at 2:20.
I'm easily confused, so you was starting to, oh, man, I don't know if I missed that text.
Well, I guess the conversation with Ben now turns into, okay, how long does it take for Tennessee to become one of the 12 best teams in college football to get into the college football playoff?
I don't think it's going to take long. I mean, they continue to work on Milton, and we got Hooker this year. So, see how I said 10-2 is my prediction on the record. So I think they're going to do really well. And then next year it's going to be sky's the limit. Boom.
Phil is in Portland, joins us on 104.5 The Zone to talk playoff expansion. Good afternoon, Phil.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Blaine Bishop. I love this show, man. You guys are awesome, man. I just really appreciate y'all. Hey, I wanted to start off positive by saying that because I know my next comments are probably going to be looked at as negative, and I'll be Mr. Negative Nancy today. I guess if I have to, I like the way things have been. I don't like all the new change. I guess it's going to take some time to grow on me, so I guess I'll be an oddball. But that's even with the NFL. I don't like how it's an offensive-driven league. You're not going to have the Blaine Bishops of today no more because they're taking the power out of the defense. So a lot of change ain't good in my mind because it takes away from the true game that I was brought up on. But, that's just my opinion, and I appreciate y'all's show. Y'all have a blessed day.
Hey, you too, Phil. Thanks for the call.
No doubt about that. Appreciate that, Phil. You know what? I kind of agree. I kind of agree with him to a certain extent. I'm just adjusting as things adjust And I still want to go back to my old ways of what made football, especially during my era. But you have to adapt and change because it's not, we have no control of it. So you have to figure out how to play. That's what I would be doing if I'm a player too. How not to get the fines and the big hits and all those things that gives me my splash plays in my mind that now you have to change and maybe have to go after the pick and be more of a ball hawk. So I would definitely have to do that. Or I would have put in my contract that the Titans had to pay for that. Like they would agree to that, paying my fines.
You saw a lot of that last night with the backyard brawl with Pitt and West Virginia. And I mean, the Purdue-Penn State game was crazy. Just the ridiculousness of college football was on full display last night. Like we were talking about it earlier. Penn State quarterback Sean Clifford, Penn State ends up coming back to win that game, throws a horrendous interception, like 10 yards above his receiver's head. It's caught at the 30, and the Purdue defensive back runs it all the way back for a pick six. That place is going nuts in West Lafayette. Drew Brees is on the sideline. Camera cuts to the Purdue player that made the interception, and he's puking his guts out on the sideline. It was just college football so perfectly imperfect on Thursday night. Then you're flipping back and forth between that and the backyard brawl, which is just knockout punch after knockout punch, crazy turnovers, wild, raucous environment in Pittsburgh. So none of those teams last night, not a single team that played last night is a favorite or even close to a favorite to make the college football playoff. Like the strongest argument could be made for Pitt, who won the ACC last year and still didn't get in. So I think a lot of people are feeling that way.
Yeah.
When you see this type of stuff
more
come
teams, more money, more opportunities to showcase, your schools. If you get in, 12 teams is a lot.
Yeah.
And so then how many games then you guys are young and know math.
Don't put that on me.
What how many games do they have? Is Brett, he's not listening. Will they play throughout a season and a playoff with 12 teams?
That is something to keep in mind. That's something Nick Saban constantly brings up. Let's think about how many games we're making these kids play.
It's getting like the NFL.
Yeah.
They don't care how many games you're going to be playing. You talk about no safety, anything. You know what they care about? Cha-ching.
We'll talk about that coming up next. How long will it take Tennessee to be among the top 12 teams in all of college football? Will it be until 2026? Before that, Ben McKee of Go Vols 247 Sports joins us next. It's Blaine and Mickey, a Friday edition on 104.5 The Zone.
I don't have to tell you, it's hard to protect your biggest investment these days. You can spend the weekends cleaning your deck or driveway or home, and then you can watch the weather to find the perfect time to apply some protector to the surface that's going to be gone within a few years anyway. Or the chore that it is these days to find someone honest and trustworthy to come out and do these things for you year after year. There needs to be a better solution. That's what my friend Steve Nelson and his team over at Everseal thought too. They've taken technology that's been around for ages in industrial applications and figured out how to provide a permanent solution for sealing your exterior wood and concrete at a price that home and business owners can actually afford. Their process starts by deep cleaning all the way through the wood or concrete to bring it back to looking as new as it can ever look, and then their patented seal will absorb all the way through to become a permanent part of your wood and concrete to prevent any further deterioration for the next 30 to 50 years. Everseal is locally owned and operated, have an A rating with the Better Business Bureau, and they're able to work year-round in any weather, so there's no better time to see what Everseal can do for you and your home. That number is 844-383-7872. Don't forget to mention my name and get a 35% discount off your initial estimate. So It is time to get things rolling with the NFL season, and you can kick off week one with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You just joined today, and you can get started with $150 in free bets, and that's guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. All you got to do is sign up with the promo code Mickey, and you are in on the action. Then you can turn game day into payday, and you can do it all season long. Let's talk future bets. I'll put my money where his mouth is. Derrick Henry to win the rushing title. I also really like the Titans win total over. I really like both of those. Find a bet you really like or more and make it. Play your way, bet your way, and get paid quickly on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Don't fumble your chance to get $150 in free bets. Win or lose, the promo code Mickey. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. You do have to be 21 or older, present in Tennessee. First online real money wager, only $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable. Free bets expire 14 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call Tennessee Redline at 1-800-889-9789.
Heard this song a few times last night.
No.
Red Bachelor on the dials.
Oh, my. I think that's just in my head right now.
Lucas Panzica alongside Blaine Bishop. It's Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone. Yeah, was this stuck in your head the whole ride home?
Oh, yeah. I was cheering it during the game and everything, even though I was on Vols sideline. I mean, now that I'm not invested into the team like that, I still support my alma mater for sure all day long. But, just the atmosphere, coming from the MAC, it can't even touch anything like, UT or anything probably in the big-time SEC school. So, yeah, it's always cool just to be part of that environment. And you just got to remember now, my whole background is I was always the player. I was never part of the equation of being the fan, and I'm enjoying the process of being a fan and get to go tailgate and do all those things before the game and not even be pressed about anything else but just having a good time.
Yeah.
So I'm never stressed out. And even when, Tennessee started blowing them out, and I thought it was going to be probably about 40 points, as I mentioned all week, and it got way past that. So I was just enjoying it. I wasn't giving. I wanted guys to just stay positive too, though, in the manner of especially the DBs. I'm always going to kind of gravitate to those guys, and I thought they were doing a good job. It's just that not getting the pass rush. So the numbers say what their numbers are, and just like you said, UT, if you want to be picky, should have done this, and this. Well, they still scored 59 points. Now you also got to look at the competition that they're playing, and they're supposed to dominate. And to be honest, I thought for Ball State to even move the ball, running the ball, and throwing the ball to the extent that they did, even though they got 10 points, I thought it was a little alarming on the defensive side with no sacks, not a lot of pressure. They were throwing the ball quick, but there was times he dropped back there and he let it go. I mean, in 5-step drop. So, I still think we need to see some pass rush from inside and outside. I just didn't see that kind of domination. And the secondary, really more for Burrell. That was a little concern. He played off a lot. I mean, and he just didn't go up and be aggressive against Ball State. Has two big 6'3" receivers. And I just think he didn't want to be none of that. He's like, I'm going to give you the hitch, and I'm going to come up and tackle you. So, you live for another down. And they kind of targeted him a little bit as time went on, as you could see. But, Hooker still looked what he looked like. You could say positive. Hyatt looks like the Hyatt we haven't seen. I mean, I don't even want to say freshman year. The way his intensity was out there and how he was lit. And by the way, his skinny frame butt was out there blocking and talking smack. I mean, he was all in. I'm looking at him like, man, I had to yell out there one time, do the cross chop to the DB. Like, what are you doing? Don't let this dude just – then he had just one arm. His arm was so long. I was like, wow, okay, we see some aggressiveness out of this 185 guy, man, So, and then Tillman is what he is. They missed him a couple times. He was open. He should have had big numbers. So, Ball State was very fortunate. But what else did I have? I thought BSU converting more third downs than they should have. So third down efficiency for the UT's defense has to improve.
Yeah, they're 5 of 13. Ball State was.
Yeah, they can't let them get to 5. There should have been a domination there. As well as I thought Hayden and Charles looked well. Burrell has to look a little better than he did and challenge guys. Ball State, they even went on 4th down conversion, so they can, they may got one of those. And then looking at UT, I mean, McDonald playing the slot, that was kind of interesting because he was a linebacker in high school. He converted to safety, which that's more the natural position because he can run and he's a big hitter. Then for them to coach him up to play the nickel and then get a pick in the first game to justify what they did by moving him, and they said he's been doing well in practice. Nobody gets to watch practice. We got to believe what they tell us, right? Man, he went out there and he looked like he was very comfortable in the slot. So, yeah, I think the sky's the limit. I think they still need a little more help on the pass rush, though. I'm still going to stick with that. But other than that, I was impressed, also on Hooker. Milton looks like, he's getting a little bit better with his touch, but he still overthrew the one pass. He's gotta have that. Gotta have it. You could say I went through the guy's hand, but he had too much mustard on there. If he just would have, boom, he was wide open. I mean, me, you, and me, we could have completed that pass. I'm not, so he's got a big arm. I mean, we all know that. And now you got to learn how to have touch, when to make it flat, when to throw it over the top. I mean, all those little bitty things. So I think he's working on it. Looks like he's getting there close, slowly but surely. Hooker, I thought, man, from a scouting perspective for the NFL, it's going to be interesting how they view him. I've talked to a few agents coming out of his last season, which was, I thought, a great season, and not looking at all the variables, they said he might have been a 5th, 6th round pick. And I'm like, what? I mean, he's not mid-round. He's like, yeah, he can't throw certain things. He's in an offense that's a college offense that doesn't translate into the pros. So, that kind of going to hurt him. So I'm interested to see if they do a little bit, some things different at times. Not change your offense, but want to show that, you want to make sure that the quarterbacks that you get are also feeling the same thing. I think slowly but surely more pro teams are running a little bit of some of the variations of what they do, but they're definitely not running the hurry up. So that'll be interesting down the road where they go to. But naturally, you win with it in college, and you stick with it, and it's working. So it was one of those games like, what can you really get out of it? I was more concerned with, if I'm UT's perspective, what do some of my backups look like? My second, my third team, they should be able to compete at a high level and still dominate Ball State. So I don't know what that looked like. I mean, they got to like the fourth string and fifth string, really, to be honest. I mean, I don't, so some of the guys I'd never even heard of. So,
well, we're going to learn a lot more about this team in week 2 at Pittsburgh.
Right.
But that's the big question.
It was a big time scrimmage with all the flair of the ambiance.
Exactly.
In the atmosphere there, which was incredible.
That's the big question in the short term, what we're going to learn about Tennessee at Pittsburgh. But in the long term, is Tennessee one of the best 12 teams in college football by 2026? In case you missed it, Pete Thamel of ESPN reporting the College Football Playoff Board of Managers has decided they have voted unanimously on a 12-team college football playoff. That model expected to start in 2026. Ben McKee of Vols 247 joins us now on 104.5 The Zone. So, Ben, what do you think? Is Josh Heupel still the head coach? Is Tennessee one of those 12 teams in the inaugural expanded college football playoff?
Well, Tennessee fans certainly think that he's going to be the head coach in, I guess, 3 years from now. And I think you have to be excited if you're a Tennessee fan or a fan of any team not named Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia, the regulars in the college football playoff the last several seasons. It gives you more of a legitimate chance of making the playoffs, and I think that's a good thing for college football. Now we'll see what the games look like in the opening round of the playoffs. That's a separate conversation, but I think Tennessee fans should be excited because it just simply increases the chances of Tennessee making it to the playoffs. And at the rate that this Josh Heupel offense is going, it sure does look like he'll be the coach still in 3 years. At least Tennessee fans hope so.
Ben, we saw a lot of bodies on defense. Tennessee really testing that depth early last night against Ball State, but no Juwan Mitchell, the former Texas linebacker, the inside linebacker, out. D. Williams, the former JUCO defensive back, also out. What do we know about those two guys specifically and why they weren't on the field for Tennessee and if they could be on the field at Pittsburgh?
Yeah, that was a very interesting development, especially with Juwan Mitchell, who does have a pretty lengthy injury history. But all indications throughout fall camp were that he was as healthy as he's been in about 2 years. Last year had season-ending shoulder surgery, rehab well, and appeared to be good to go for fall or for the opener, but the media doesn't get to see things the last 2 weeks of fall camp, so something could have popped up there. And Josh Heupel was super vague after the game and said that he just wasn't able to go and that they'll reevaluate him next week prior to Pittsburgh. And he said the same thing for D. Williams. And D. Williams was banged up throughout fall camp. That was something that the media could see early in fall camp. Seemed like he was managing trying to work through an injury, so that's still lingering for him. And again, Josh Heupel said the same thing in regards to his status for Pittsburgh, that he wasn't good to go last night, and they'll reevaluate him next week.
Ben McKee with us, formerly of VolQuest, now on Vols 247, covers Tennessee football for 24/7 Sports. Ben, keeping it in that defensive backfield, Brandon Turnage, the Alabama transfer. I found it interesting he was nowhere to be found when that initial depth chart came out earlier in the week, and didn't see a lot of him last night. He ends up with a couple of tackles. He did play, but what do you make of where Brandon Turnage kind of fits in to this defensive backfield? Because I figured that we'd see a lot of him at one of the corner spots, and that has not been the case. Obviously, it's early.
Yeah, that was the biggest surprise for me when they released the preseason depth chart. I thought Brandon Turnage was for sure going to be in the two deep and challenged to be a starter. My opinion from afar is that maybe he's a tweener, not in terms of body size, but in terms of position within the secondary. Is he a safety? Is he a nickel? Is he a corner? And obviously, it's good to have that versatility. You can get on the field quicker in that manner. But I also do think it can hurt you at times if you're okay at all three positions, but not really good or great at one. That can hurt you in terms of playing time. And it seems to be the case for Brandon Turnage, just trying to find him a true home. And, again, after the way he stepped in some games last year when Theo Jackson had to miss time and he performed well, I thought he was a lock to be a two-deep and almost a starter for this season, but obviously was not the case. And you mentioned he had a couple tackles. That didn't even come until the game was practically over. So very surprising, and it'll be up to him to work his way back up the depth chart, because you look at the nickel position, the star position, Tamarion McDonald has a firm hold of that. I thought Kamal Haddon played really well. Christian Charles, Warren Burrell, opposite of Kamal Haddon, they're going to need to step up and perform better as stronger opponents pop up on the schedule. And then obviously Jalen McCullough and Trayvon Flowers, they're going to be the two safeties because of how much football they've played. So Brandon Turnage is really going to have to turn it up if he wants some playing time.
Well, Ben, you just gave us a little bit of observation. Did they survive with any serious injuries by anybody? What's the injury update?
Yes. No injuries that were apparent when watching the game. You had, I believe, one shaken up after an extra point, but I don't know that was a little gamesmanship in trying to buy the defense some time before getting back on the field. But other than that, I mean, it was a clean game. You had Quasi Garland, the linebacker, go down, but he's a reserve linebacker, and he's not really going to play in crunch minutes unless the starters get hurt, the guys in front of him get hurt. So that was one of the biggest takeaways, that Tennessee handled its business against an inferior opponent, and more importantly, they exited the game appearing to be fully healthy going into a Pittsburgh game that I think is going to be fascinating next week up north.
Well, I've been talking about a couple things that was a little concerning for me. That was third down efficiency by Ball State against the UT defense, as well as on offense. I didn't think they had any chunk plays. Now, you could say that their defense was playing a certain way, but at the end of the day, with fatigue and, missing tackles, they still should have some chunk plays. I thought they missed some opportunities that, they didn't throw.
Yeah, I
no
would agree with
sacks
that.
too. No sacks too. So you could say they were throwing the ball quick, but they weren't throwing that quick.
Right. That was the most concerning to me is that I didn't think that, given the level of competition, I didn't think that Tennessee's defensive front got after the quarterback enough. When you have that difference in level of competition, you should be getting off after the quarterback more so than Tennessee did last night. That was the most concerning to me. Ball State finished 5 for 13 on third down, and I think you'll sign up for that most every night, and especially after they converted their first two. So after they converted their first two, they didn't pick up but 3 first downs the rest of the game, and Tennessee also held them to 0-2, I believe, 0 for 2 on fourth down as well. So that was a big issue last year. It really plagued the defense in many games, and it seemed to take a step forward last night, but certainly a lot of things to clean up on the defensive side of the ball because Keaton Slovis is going to be ready to sling the football around next weekend in Pittsburgh.
No doubt. So you're talking about no pass rush and questions at least one of the corner spots. So I think that's something to keep an eye on throughout the season, especially early on here to get that all settled down. Do you think they held out those players, Mitchell and those guys, because they felt like, hey, we can look at some other guys, we can win this game easily without them, and give them another extra week just to play? Or do you think it's more to it that their injuries really were bothering them? If you were making a guess.
Yeah, I think that they were just being cautious. There's just no need to run them out there against Ball State. When you have Jeremy Banks, you have Aaron Beasley, you can still get the job done without their impact. So as of right now, I'm not concerned about it. Just no need to push it against Ball State, especially with Pittsburgh and Florida coming up.
Let's look at some of the backups that got into the game, I guess, lastly for me, that you thought, oh, okay, they look like they're comfortable and they belong in the SEC. Not starters, but once some backups got out there, you said, oh, he don't look too bad. I can see what they see in him and maybe down the road where he can be implemented in this offense or defense.
Yeah, your favorite position on the field, the receivers. I thought the depth. I thought the depth really showed through. And Walker Merrill stepping up, catching his first touchdown. Jimmy Holiday stepping up as well and catching his first career touchdown as well. I thought the depth at the receiver position was better than I anticipated. And I think that's something that's really going to bode well for this offense. Cedric Tillman, Brew McCoy, Jalen Hyatt, those guys are going to have great seasons. But even Squirrel White stepping up and hauling in a couple of catches. The depth at that position, I think, is really going to be a great benefit for this offense when you look at how efficient Hendon Hooker is as a passer. So those were the guys, kind of the reserves that came up out of nowhere that stood out to me are those backup receivers. I definitely think the receiver position is deeper this year than it was last year, and I thought the early returns were really positive.
He is Ben McKee. Go Vols 247, talking Tennessee football, the 59-10 win over Ball State on Thursday in Neyland Stadium. Ben, you headed up to Pittsburgh next week?
I'll be there. I can't wait. Haven't been up there before. Going to catch some baseball and try to catch the Steelers in Cincinnati on the way back home.
Oh, not bad. Nice little round trip.
Oh, no doubt about it. When do you leave? Because we got to make sure we have you on when you're not flying.
I'll be driving.
Okay.
Friday morning.
Oh, okay. Well, Lucas getting all that cheddar, man. He'll let you borrow some money. He'll pay for your flight, man.
Well, if I fly, I can't go back to Pittsburgh and check out the Steelers in Cincinnati. So I'm gonna. It's just a 7-hour drive from Knoxville, and I'll tough it out.
Yeah,
right, cool.
Not too bad. Ben, by the way, hey, man, congrats on the move. Great to see you with the 247 sports team. Can't wait to see what you're covering, the stuff you'll be putting out on a more consistent basis.
Yeah, I really appreciate that and love watching you all from afar and seeing you all have success as well. So I appreciate the kind words and hope you all have a great weekend.
Ben, same to you. We'll talk to you soon. Safe travels to Pittsburgh.
Talk to you next week.
Buddy.
All right, that is Ben McKee, Go Vols 247. All right. I like that. 7-hour drive up to Pittsburgh, watch a game in Acrisure Stadium. Is that so weird to call it that? That's what it is. It's not Heinz Field.
I don't understand why it's not the owner's name on there. I just, nobody even mentions the Rudies. I mean, I know they're not a company, and I get it, it's money, but, I mean, I don't think the Steelers need any money. So, I mean, they should be honoring them in some kind of form or fashion, their family name. I don't know where to do it, but, yeah, that definitely sounds weird. Heinz is much better.
So if you missed it, Pete Thamel reported the news that the college football playoff will be expanded as late as 2026. Brett McMurphy has come out with what a 12-team playoff would have looked like last season. In 2021, there's some really fun matchups on here. We'll get to that. We'll call our shot on a Friday on the way out. It's Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, Mickey Ryan here to talk about Renters Warehouse. Is now the best time ever to own a single-family rental home in Nashville? Housing prices are falling, but rents are rising, and with low inventories, they're stronger than ever. What does this mean for you? It's not always a seller's market, but it's always a renter's market, especially when you hire Renters Warehouse to manage the process for you. With selling, you never know what you're going to get. With renting, you can be confident in your ability to earn monthly cash flow, appreciation, and tax benefits for the long term. And with Renters Warehouse, you can sit back and collect the money. Tenants, they find the best. Rent, they collect it for you. Maintenance requests, they handle them 24/7, all for just one low monthly flat fee. They'll even warranty your tenants for free. Don't sell, cash in and rent your home with Renters Warehouse instead. Find out how much rent your home can get by visiting renterswarehouse.com or call 615-398-9550 today.
Finishing strong on a Friday, it's Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. That coming hot there? Your dial a little turned up in your headset? Lucas Panzica alongside Blaine Bishop. Brett Batchelor making things happen.
I can't hear you.
On the other side of the glass. I'm right next to you.
I just hear you live, but I don't hear you in my ear. Oh, it's echoing. Oh, man, they bamboozled me. I'm going to just listen to you.
Well, we've been talking about the news from Pete Thamel that college football playoff expansion is set in stone. As late as 2026, it will go to 12 teams. So, Blaine, here's what a 12-team playoff would have looked like in the 2021 season. Last year, the first round, the 12 seed would have been Pitt, Tennessee's week 2 opponent next week, at Georgia, who was the 5 seed. 11 seed Utah at Notre Dame. 10 seed Michigan State at Ohio State. And 9 seed Oklahoma State at 8 seed Ole Miss.
Those all sound like some decent games. I wouldn't mind. Yeah, I would be all in. I think the kicker is what we were talking about is, are you conflicted with going to 12 teams and then like a team like Alabama, we use as an example, then there's no way if they lose 2 games, they're still going to be in.
Yeah.
They're still going to be in. There's no,
it doesn't add importance to the regular season like people think it does. Like it makes the regular season far more important
more games. Yeah.
for Ole Miss, right, to get in. But for Alabama, they go 9-3, they're in somehow, and they're probably getting to the Final Four. Like, it doesn't change things, I think, the way people think it will. There's more football. There's going to be some great environments. The most important thing about this is they have to play these games on location, on campus. If they come out with the 12-team playoff at a bunch of neutral sites, I'm not going to be happy.
Oh, no. They can't do that too. They may do it with the Final Four.
Sure.
Kind of keep that consistent.
That's fine.
But
play it at the Rose Bowl, at the Orange Bowl.
Yeah,
that's fine.
But the rest of the games got to be at home.
You cannot have 11 seed Utah at 6 seed Notre Dame in Atlanta. You know? Can you imagine?
Well, I'd be interested to see who's the home field there.
But you're right. If Alabama loses 2 games this year,
like Georgia and Tennessee,
they're out. They're out of the playoff. If this happens in a 12-team playoff, the same teams that you're used to getting in that you keep complaining about always getting in are still going to get in, and they're still going to beat everybody and get there. How much does the extra football matter to you? I guess that's the question in all this.
Yeah, and that's what I get to and say, it just brings more football. So we got more football for longer.
Which we have more football anyway with all the bowl games.
Yeah, well, but maybe not as important. I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe you'll be playing for more because you're added to the playoff contention, at least one more game. You got a shot. And guess what? It does. Everybody feels good that they were a part of it. That's part of the equation. Nobody talks about that. We deserve. We won the ACC.
You were in the playoff.
We won the Pac-12. Yeah. We should get in. Oregon or whoever, all these past years. And, okay, well, you're in.
You might have one absurd, just out of this world upset every 5 years, right? Like last year, Alabama would have played because it was seeded based on the college football playoff ranking at the end of the year. So Alabama would have played the winner between Ole Miss and Oklahoma State, who Alabama waxed Ole Miss last year in Tuscaloosa after Lane Kiffin told us to get our popcorn ready. 2 seed Michigan would have played Ohio State or Michigan State. Now that would have been interesting. A Michigan-Ohio State rematch in the college football playoff quarterfinals. Cincinnati would have played the winner between Notre Dame and Utah. Now Cincinnati beat Notre Dame in South Bend last year, big reason why they got in. And then Baylor, the 4 seed, would have played either Georgia or Pitt.
Ooh.
Baylor would have played Georgia or Pitt.
Yeah, all those games sound really cool and interesting to me.
Baylor was not the 4 seed. I apologize. That just would have been the 4th game of the quarterfinals. Baylor was definitely not the 4 seed.
Who was the 4 seed?
It was Cincinnati. Yeah, Cincinnati squeaked in.
Yeah, so, yeah. They're going to be more games. I'm more about thinking about the safety. That shows you that they don't even care. It's just about money. Man, how many games will that be, Brett?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. We never figured that out.
If you get all the way to the championship with a 12-team playoff, how many games will you play as a college athlete? I can't hear.
I think it's 16 or 17 because you have 12
So you
regular
play the first
season.
round, the quarterfinals, the semifinals, the national championship game. So that's 4 extra games, not including your conference championship, which is 5. You'd play 17 games total, the same as an NFL regular season. So
okay, but if they do that many playoff games,
make sure that you make your money because that's moving the needle here, man. That's a lot of games for a college. They'll be well prepared for the NFL.
If they do that many
They'll get a
playoff
couple
games,
extra games, they'll be
then
ready
how
to go.
does the CFB championship game get to the Super Bowl at that point?
What do you mean? How close to
Like,
college
because
football?
normally the championship game for college football is like the second, third week of January.
Yeah.
That's going to
Oh,
add
I
on
see.
weeks. So how close to get to the Super Bowl?
does the national championship game come to the Super Bowl weekend as far as the calendar goes? Yeah, I don't know. But it's going to happen 2026 at the latest. So it's time to call your shot. I don't know if you're ready to call a shot for the 2026 season that Tennessee gets in, but I'm going to go ahead and call mine, Blaine, that Utah goes down to Gainesville this weekend. It's a minus 2.5 spread. The Utah Utes smack Florida in the mouth. They cover the spread. They win the game in Gainesville on their way to what might be another Pac-12 title. That's my shot. Week one of the Billy Napier era is a loss to Utah at home.
Ooh, that's a tough one for him, but I wouldn't be surprised. I really was impressed with Utah over the last 2 years, but then just seeing them going against Ohio State and how they, really come really close to winning that game, and maybe should have won that game. I wouldn't be stunned. I'm not sure who's else coming back, but I saw the NFL players they have, and they got drafted. Watching them live, that linebacker was really good. I don't know. You know what? 2.5 makes you feel like it's supposed to be 3 when you're the home team. I'm still sticking with the home team. I think Florida's still going to get them. Still think, yeah.
Brett Batchelor, you got a shot?
Serena
that's
Williams.
not my shot, though.
Oh.
No, I know. We're going to get to your shot. What's
Serena Williams will not lose this weekend, and she will make it to the finals of the U.S. Open in what could be her last tournament.
Serena Williams winning what could be her last tournament. All right, Blaine.
Oh, really? Ooh, I'm not sure. I don't know if she got enough left in the tank. Those great ones like herself and all the great ones in any sport, they can always give you one hurrah, but you're going to run out of gas if you keep going longer. And then she played doubles with her sister. So I don't know. I think she's going to run out of gas. This is my opinion. But my shot is that Vrabel on Monday will say that, I guess Buck told us he doesn't tell us that it's an ACL injury and he will be on IR officially. We got to hear that until we can't just report it like Rap Sheet or whoever else, Adam Schefter, have reported. We haven't seen anything official from the Titans. So there's a presser on Monday. So we shall see that Landry, if it's true, as reported, has an ACL tear and he's out for the season. I want to hear Vrabel say that. So he never says anything like that, keeps all the injuries. He's out for the year, IR. That's it. He's got to say ACL injury.
All right.
If not, then Luke is going to have to ask him.
We'll find out on Monday.
Yeah. Oh.
Enjoy the long weekend. Labor Day, last one before the start of the NFL season. Enjoy all the college football happening throughout the day, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. It's a glorious time. Football is fully back, but that means it's time for us to get out for 3HL.
In the meantime,
in between time, peace.